Morning, folks. Today's soap sample is brought to us by Soap Commander. Size is, I think it says 0.65 ounces, or can't remember how many grams. 0.18 grams, something like that. I can't remember. It's kind of small print, and early in the mornings my eyes aren't the best in the world, but it's a fairly decent sized soap sample. This one here is called Endurance. And it is based off, I guess you might say, the original Old Spice scent. And the best my nose picks up is it has just a slight powdery scent to it. Oh, so I've already taken off a chunk, as you can see there, but it's a fairly decent sized chunk of a soap sample. It'll last you a little while. Give you a good idea, in other words, while you're shaving with it a few times, whether you like the scent or not, because sometimes the scent might grow on you. And this one here, I'll be honest with you, I think maybe a full tub might be in order. I kind of like this scent. And decided to follow up with another sample, but this one here is from Phoenix Artisan Accoutrements, and the name of this one here is called Clubouy, and I'm quite sure that the scents are not going to match, but I thought the two quote-unquote classic scents, why not? For me, thought that would work out pretty well. I also already put a hot towel to the face this morning as my pre-shave routine, and still sporting the Taconic pre-shave oil. Still liking this so far. And shaver of the day. Wait, I probably should soap. I got the lather. In other words, I already got it whipped up here in a Sarabachi bowl. These I've seen online running right around the $10 mark. If you're unfamiliar with this kind of bowl, I don't know the camera will pick that up or if it gets washed out by the light. There's little grooves that are built into this bowl, and it's used to grind up like nuts or whatever the case might be, herbs. And but the grooves are well rounded, so in other words, it's not real abrasive on your brush. And I whipped it up here with a this particular brush I got from Metalworks. Jake, he doesn't. He took his business a different direction, let's just say. Anyway, this particular knot, I think, if I remember right, it's a whip dog knot. Might add a little bit more water to this. It whips up pretty nice in this bowl. What I was going to say about the bowl, I got mine at a thrift store, and I paid a whole $1 for mine. In other words, it's inexpensive. In other words, if you wanted to go that route, for me, it's just one of those things my wife and I, we do from time to time. We'll go to a thrift store and, just see what kind of treasures we can find. And it just happened to be this one here. We found it, and, I never really looked into it. I had seen John Romanoff use one in a video quite some time ago, and anyway, I just happened to see this in the store and decided I'd go ahead and give it a try. And it does hold on to the soap. If you press it down in there, it will hold on to the soap for the most part. In other words, if you gently wash it out, if you want to keep some of the soap in there, you're just trying to get rid of the, I guess you might say, the loose lather, if you will. It'll hold on to the soap that didn't whip up in the lather, so you can use it again, the soap that's still stuck to the sides, but it's not that tough to clean out though. Shaver of the day. This one here, going from one extreme to the other, paying $1 for a for a shaving bowl, and this one right here is from Blackland. It's called the Sabre. It takes a single edge blade. This one here that's in here is the Gem PTFE. In other words, it's Teflon coated. This one here, I'll go ahead and take this apart just to show the unique post that's threaded here. This particular shaver comes with two different blades, not blades, plates. One's got a 1 dot, one's got 2 dots on it. That is the post that I'm talking about. You can kind of see right there. It is threaded, but it is not round. It's kind of flat, and that makes it kind of a unique setup there. At any rate, it comes with 2 different plates, and it's not inexpensive. This particular shaver came to me by the way of a fine gentleman named Steve Sprague. Sent this to me, and my experience with this has been nothing but great. Go ahead and get started with the pre-shave oil here. I use 2 pumps with this. That's what's recommended, and that's what I've been using ever since I started with this, and it seems to work well for me. But back to the shaver. Smooth shaves with this one. This one here's got the 2 dot plate, if I didn't already mention that. I can't complain not a bit about the shaves I get with this shaver. really nice, smooth, comfortable. Now today I'll probably start bleeding, huh? At any rate, I had good shaves with this shaver. Really enjoy using it. But it is not on the cheap side. This is a shaver that is made, designed, built, however you want to word it, to last you a lifetime, going into the next lifetime. In other words, it's built to last. And as it goes for those threads on that unique post, in my opinion, if you pay attention to what you're doing, you shouldn't have any problems with those threads on that post. Go ahead and get started here. I think I'm putting a little bit more water because I think this one, in other words, my lather's not quite as wet as I normally like to whip it up. But this scent is pretty nice. I like it. That powdery scent to it that I pick up, at least per my nose, adds to, I guess you might say, the classics of the scent. Club Guy, I did not pop the top on the Club Guy. In other words, this will be my first. You'll get my first impression of Club Guy. I have not used it, used the soap or the aftershave. This will be a first time go with the aftershave. That is one thing that's kind of nice about Douglas and his aftershave samples. Not only does he make the samples for aftershaves, they're inexpensive. They're only $1 a piece. So in other words, it gives you an opportunity to try several different scents before you buy the full bottle or soap, depending on what you're working at. Today is Hump Day. Today's Wednesday, day after the presidential debates. I didn't watch it. I just catch bits and pieces of it. Sound like it was kind of chaotic. I usually don't watch debates, but for me, I just find it kind of humorous sometimes watching the people's reactions. That's what I just find it humorous. It's kind of fun for me. Now, as it goes for aggressiveness, I mean, you do feel a little bit of the blade. And I think that's probably, if I had to guess why there's two plates, let's say, I haven't tried the one dot plate, but if I had to guess, if a person was just starting out and started out with this shaver, I think the one dot plate probably will allow enough of the mildness, in other words, not near as much blade feel, where a person new to this would feel more comfortable with the one dot plate. There is a little bit of a blade feel, just a little bit, but for some folks that are just starting out, that might be a little uncomfortable for them, just that feel. For me, I'm used to it. It's not that big of a deal. So for me, this is still a relatively, I don't even know if I would consider it medium aggressive for me. I think sometimes it just really depends on what kind of blade feel you're used to. But for me, it's still pretty mild. So I can't hardly imagine what the one dot plate feels like. Probably incredibly smooth. Like I said, this thing is built to last. Cannot complain about this shaver at all. So in other words, built to last, daily shaver, yeah, I could do this. Not a problem. Blades. In case you're new to the channel or haven't seen one of my other videos, I'll try to remember to put some links down below. The gem blades that are Teflon coated and the Treat Super blades, Supers, those are the two that I find the most comfortable to use. I've tried a few of the others. I don't find them to be quite as comfortable. That's just me. You might find them comfortable, but for me, not so much. I've tried some that, how can you say, are just absolutely horrible. At least for me. I don't know how they sell them, how they market those blades to use in a shaver, because they're just awful. In other words, tear your face up, I'm bleeding everywhere. So I guess you might say I've gotten pretty particular about my blades anymore. Just because they're in a package and supposedly to shave with, I don't always trust what I look at. But since I found two different kinds, so in other words, if it comes difficult to find one kind, maybe I can find the other. I do keep a good supply on hand, just in case for some reason they get to be really hard to find. Because single edge blades aren't the easiest to find. They you can find them at CVS, at least here locally, from time to time. Relatively easy. They don't normally have numerous packages on the shelf. So in other words, when I go in and I actually look at CVS, there might be two hanging up on the hook. And in other words, just two. And there's been other times that they've had none. So they don't keep a fantastic supply of blades, gem blades. And I say gem blades, gem style blades. The ones I usually see are, in other words, are CVS branded. But sometimes there's telltale signs who's making those blades. And if you're familiar, if you follow along with Jim and who owns Persona Blades and what the new name is and so on and so forth, in other words, they'll still carry Jim blades, they'll still say Jim, but in other words, it may, if you find some old stock, you still find some American Safety Razor branded ones on the little plastic dispenser. Sometimes you'll see the Accutech blades. That's still the same thing, they just been sold and somebody else has got ownership of it. So in other words, you follow along with that, you kind of know, be able to tell what kind of blades you're getting. So if they're made in the US or if they're made in Israel, I would say that's a pretty good bet that those blades are going to be quite alright to use. Ones made in Vietnam though, dogs are going nuts. Ones that made in Vietnam though, I tried those blades. Those don't work well for me. They don't work at all. After I tried one a while back, the got you to the point where I just, if I don't get very good shave on the cheek with the grain, sometimes you like to strangle your dogs. I will stop on the cheek, because if it's already uncomfortable on the cheek, I'm just not going to go any further than that. Because for me, the real trouble spots are right underneath here and here, especially right through here, because I've got such a odd growth through here. Yeah, I don't know if these dogs are going to shut up or not. Hang on just a second. Hey! Sometimes if you can actually see the response when I do that, it is kind of funny. Alright, this is against the grain pass. Still nice and smooth. I can smell the soap, the scent of the soap from time to time. If you're kind of new to the channel, my nose is not the best in the world. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And here of late, I spend a good part of my first waking hour blowing my nose. This kind of weather just really messes with my nose. A little bit of feedback on the against grain pass, just a little. I know with a vintage single edge shaver, like a Jim G bar or something of the sort, that usually against the grain pass, sometimes it'll get quite a bit of feedback on the against grain pass. Nice and smooth. So my typical routine with the grain, against the grain, and across the grain, not necessarily that in order, but anyway, I get the bulk of my whisker reduction taken care of. There's just not much left. See what I mean? They are just being unbelievably unruly. Cut it out. Interesting, isn't it? Yes, life does go on even during the video. So how can you say, in other words, how life gets in the way? You can't imagine. I try to get up early when nobody else is awake. Everything is still sleeping. No, not early enough. Not always the best time. Sometimes it's like that in life. One of my usual suspects here, this Phoenix Artisan Accoutrements Crown King alum block I've had for quite a while, complete with rubber band. So in other words, if you look for a new one, the packaging is going to be different. They do change from time to time as it goes for packaging. But pretty much the setup has still been the same over the past few years, in that he offers a rubber band to put around the alum block. I put mine this way. It works better for me, because that's the way I hang on to it and the way I use it. Other folks might want to put it the other direction. Just whatever works best for you. I keep it in this container. My alum block, it's not, how you say, soaking wet, so I don't, in other words, putting it back in the container, I've never had an issue with it. If it's soaking wet, I probably would dry it off before I put it back in that container. But for me, I haven't had any issues. My first alum block, oh gosh, was it 2 years? Maybe longer. It lasted a good long while, and the routine hasn't changed. If it's a little damp, I might wipe it off on my towel here, put it back in the container. Seems to work out just fine for me. But they do offer, this is an unscented witch hazel mentholated from Stirling. They do offer Phoenix Artisan Accoutrement, I guess you might call it a drying dock, where it's ventilated and you can just lay it on top of it and it'll dry out in the open air. But for me, it works just fine here. I think Douglas did mention at one point in time in one of his videos about the alum block and putting holes in the container itself so it would dry out. So in other words, you can put some holes in this container that it comes in. Maybe that might work for you. It just, whatever works for you when it comes to an alum block. And you may not even use one. When I first started trying this experiment, I go ahead and get the aftershave out. With the alum block, I just used just the alum and no witch hazel, and my face got dried out just too bad. In other words, just using the alum block alone causes me issues, but using the alum block in with the witch hazel seemed to work out a whole lot better, and that method works well for me. Now for some other folks, in other words, maybe they just want to use one or the other. For me, if I was just going to choose one, of course I'd have to go with the witch hazel. Alright, I'm going to get this top off of here without spilling a bunch of it, now that my hands are kind of wet and soapy and whatnot. I have Clubman. I have Classic Vanilla Clubman. I've got a few of them. I do enjoy Clubman. I thought about going with it, but since I got samples, I thought that'd be a better way to go. And I'm trying to stand this thing up. You just have to lean it over like that. Like I said, the two scents are totally different, but I thought they would work well with each other. If not, it's just a mix and match. More of a mix today, maybe than a match. It's almost like trick or treat, huh? More of a trick than a treat. Depends on how you want to look at it. For my nose, it works well. For your nose, it may not. Yeah, this, as goes for classic scents, this is definitely falls in that category. Trying to wait for the dry down. So far, I'm not noticing any difference in the scent. It still smells the same. It's not changing, at least for my nose, as it's drying down. One thing I probably ought to go ahead and show you real quick, because I did mention it on the plate, that the oh, in case you're wondering, Yeah, it's a typical hole there. Nothing unusual there. This particular plate, where the dots are at, you might be able to see, that's where it shows where it's got two dots at. It's just to this side of where the post is at, in case you're wondering where I'm talking about. And that's how the blade fits in there. See if you can see that. Nice and snug. In other words, there's no, how you say, adjustment with the blade. You just put it in there and it just works just fine. Very impressive. This is, like I say, this is built to last. Really like this shaver. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope you're healthy. Stay safe and smooth shaves to you.